Hi, thank you for watching this video. Well, Weathering with You, it's a beautiful movie. Let me start with that. It's a beautiful movie. It's a romantic story from the young protagonist. The director is Makoto Shinkai, and this film follows his previous film, Your Name, which was very successful internationally. Many people who saw Your Name said that that movie was better than this one, so I'm very interested in seeing that one. But this is a beautiful film, and if you want to know more about this movie, stay watching this video. So Weathering with You starts with the story of young Hodaka. Hodaka comes to Tokyo and he's going away from his home because, and that I like that part, they never explain why Hodaka is so strong about leaving his house. And he's willing to go through a lot of struggling in Tokyo because he just doesn't want to be at his house. They never really explain that much. I mean, they give some little story, but it's very important, and I like that because the story is not about that. We just know that he wants to come to Tokyo and he wants to live here and is willing to do whatever it takes. When Hodaka comes to Tokyo, well, let me start saying the animation, the graphics of the city of Tokyo and many little elements was amazing, right? To me, I live here in the United States, so I'm more used to the animation of movies made in Hollywood. But the anime of this movie, the graphics of the movie, to me were spectacular. During the movie, I was telling my wife, the graphics are really good, right? Because that is a big element why the movie, grabs your attention, and you can't escape the story. The graphics, the detail of the graphics of the story, you are aware you're watching an animated movie, but you get into the movie just because of how realistic the graphics are. Well, there's a part where Hodaka is in Tokyo, he's still struggling, and he goes to McDonald's, right? And he's sitting inside McDonald's, and this girl, that later we're gonna know about her, gives him a Big Mac. And the detail of McDonald's and the Big Mac and the hamburger, and if you have ever eaten a Big Mac, you know this looks exactly as a Big Mac. All those little details were impressive to me, they really got me into the story. I just wanted to mention that because the details of the animation were a big part why I love this movie. The details of how good the graphics were, how good they represented actual reality, I love them. Well, Hodaka comes into Tokyo and he goes to the house of Suga. He had already met Suga because Suga saved his life on the boat coming to Tokyo, right? And then when he gets to Suga's house, he meets this girl, and I love the character of Natsumi. He meets Natsumi, and Natsumi is this very sexy girl, right? And I love the fact that they draw her very sexy, and she even makes jokes about, oh, you're looking at my boobs, stuff like that, right? Because this all seemed very real. Let me say, I'm being very honest, like I always am in my videos. I am not very familiar with anime, right? I'm not very familiar. I live here in the United States. I see a lot of animated movies from Hollywood. But I like the very realistic elements, like these very adult topics that the movie had inside of it. Like this character of Natsumi, that she was very sexy and she makes jokes about that the Hodaka is looking at her boobs and stuff like that. So I love all those elements. Well, Hodaka goes to Suga's house where Natsumi lives, and he thinks that Natsumi is his mistress, right? And then we'll discover something else later on. But he starts working as a writer for these yellow newspapers, that he just writes stories, to get people's attention. That's what Hodaka does. So as he's going through the streets of Tokyo, he meets Hina, right? And Hina is the girl who previously gave him a Big Mac when he was struggling and he was sitting in a McDonald's. Hina gives him a Big Mac, and he remembers Hina from that scene in his past. He remembers she was the girl from McDonald's. And Hina is going with this man to this hotel, and we never know what's going to happen, but he goes to rescue her, right? And then he connects with Hina. And Hina is the most important one, is the most important person in Hodaka's life. But then we start discovering things about the relationship between these two. And Hina is a woman that can control the weather. In the fantasy of this movie, there's a thing called in my country, it's called realism fantasy. I'm from Peru, and there's a thing called realism fantasy in Peru. that from elements of the culture they create these fantasy stories, and this is very similar to that. I love that. I love that thing because they create this fantasy out of this reality setup that they have made at the beginning of the movie. They create this fantasy. Hina is a woman, as a girl, who can control the weather because of things that have happened in her life that later we'll explain on. But Hina can control the weather, and Hina is this lovable girl, right? You meet her and you just love her, you know? And Hodaka has this idea that they can make a business out of the ability that Hina has of controlling the weather. And they make a business online that if you have, you know, an event, a party or something, you can hire them, and Hina is gonna come and she's gonna pray, and the sky is gonna clear, right? Because at that time, I explained this, in Japan, it was raining every day. Like it was something that has never happened before, but it was raining every day in Japan. And Hina, through his powers, she can pray and the skies can clear, right? Okay, this is the whole setup of the story because I found this setup very interesting. And I don't want to spoil the movie because this is a beautiful movie, but let me just say this is an amazing story. It's a fantasy story based on reality. It's a love story, and I loved how they developed the relationship between Hodaka and Hina. There is a part, it has many elements. It has the element of the weather. There is a part in which a person says that the relationship between Earth and the sky has been going on between millions of years. The sky and the earth have a relationship, and humans are just allowed at this moment of space and time to hang on around here, right? To hang on around Earth. But the relationship between Earth, we're just guests. We're just guests in this time and space. The relationship between Earth and sky is a lot larger and bigger than just the existence of human. I love that part. I love how they trace these myths from the past. They trace how humans in the past also had people who could control the weather. They trace how these people they're kind of like cursed because of their own abilities to control the weather. And all these elements are within the relationship of Hina, Hodaka, and Hina's little brother. I love many parts of the movie. There are very emotional parts of the movie. There is a part where Hodaka is in a hotel and he falls in love with Hina. And he just looks at Hina and her little brother, and he just prays that God, let me live my life just like this moment, you know, like just like this moment that I'm sharing with Hina and her little brother. Just let me live my life like this, right? That part was very touching, right? But to me, it got me. There are many instances where Hodaka wants to save Hina. There is a part, I'm going to try to say this without spoiling the movie. There is a part where Hodaka, that was very heartfelt to me, right? He says, I'd rather live my entire life with raining than losing you. Like between living a life with sun and with, you know, clear skies, or living my life with raining every day, I choose the raining every day because it will be with you, right? It's like very romantic. It's like silly romantic, but it got me. Within the context of the story, it was a beautiful scene. It was a beautiful movie. I have no other words to recommend this movie to you. It had a limited release in the United States. The director's previous film, Your Name, people have seen Your Name, says that Your Name was better than this story. So I'm dying to see Your Name because this was an amazing film. I give it 5 stars because this was a beautiful, beautiful movie. The animations, the graphics, the story, the feelings, the characters, everything was great about this movie. So go to see it, Weathering with You. It's a beautiful film. So thank you for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Follow me on my YouTube channel. Follow me on my Instagram account, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.